Hello everyone. I've recently been following the Jordan Peterson fiasco on Channel 4 News with Cathy Newman. It's one of my favourite Jordan Peterson moments just because the sentence by sentence deconstruction of what she's saying to refute her. It's just amazing, and it's something I can show people who don't know Jordan Peterson very well as like a here's a good introduction to Jordan Peterson. This is the type of guy he is. Just he doesn't take anything really, does he? But I've mainly been watching the media backlash because they seem to want to victimise Cathy Newman. So we'll start with this article from The Independent. Misogynistic abuse against Cathy Newman is a symbol of the backlash against the MeToo movement. It's quite a bit wrong with that sentence in my opinion. I can't imagine it being just against the MeToo movement. I'd say it's against feminism in general. Misogynistic abuse, I guess we'll have to go further in the article to find out if we actually get examples in this article, because in a lot we don't. And her header is a bit stupid as well. When white men feel they are losing power, any level of nastiness is possible, and much power has been ceded of late. I don't know why you've put white men in there, because the conversation was just about men and women, but fine, why don't you just bring race into this for no reason? Are we losing power? I guess so. Or the lack of power we already had isn't being recognised? I don't know. But it's certainly true that any level of nastiness is possible, but I don't think it's because we're losing power. I think it's because Cathy Newman acted in that interview like a ideological moron. But, well, we'll dive into this article, see what it's like. We start off with a quote from Ben DePere, the editor of Channel 4 News, saying, "What a terrible indictment of the times we live in." I couldn't agree more, Mr. DePere, but not for the same reasons as you. We then are told that Channel 4 News is hiring security experts to carry out analysis of the incident and is considering police involvement. We don't actually get any indication of what threats were made. We are told to listen and believe. We're then told that Peterson, the Canadian professor who compared gender-neutral pronouns to the likes of Chairman Mao's Communist China, emerged from the interview, at least to his loyal YouTube following, victorious. That's a very long sentence, and it's also full of bloody lies. He didn't compare gender-neutral pronouns to the likes of Chairman Mao's Communist China. He compared the ideologues behind the gender-neutral pronoun movement for Bill C-16. He compared their ideology to Chairman Mao's Communist China's ideology. Please stop lying. And also, I don't think it's just his loyal YouTube following that think he was victorious. I think it was the main part of society that thought he was victorious, as we can see from the YouTube video of the original interview. It's got 100,000 likes to 2,000 dislikes. I think that's a good projection of what society thinks. That Jordan Peterson did a good job and came out victorious in this interview. There's then a paragraph about some bigoted statements about men that isn't really important, so I'll skip that. But this paragraph, I think, is quite important, because again, she just lies. So Cathy Newman will be our fall woman. She has taken a baton from the likes of Laura Knusberg, the BBC reporter who hired a bodyguard. That was against far-left anti-Semites. The historian Mary Beard, who questioned the whitewashing of history. I don't know who that is. Labour MP Diane Abbott, who had the sheer audacity of being a black woman in public office. No. She had the sheer audacity to be a complete moron in politics. And the Brexit campaigner Gina Miller, who dared reinforce our democracy. No! Gina Miller is trying to push back against Brexit. She's trying to go against the democratic vote. What are you talking about? It's just a stupid paragraph all in all, but I thought it was important to point out that she will just lie to push an agenda. And like, oh, look at all these women who are being bullied for being complete morons, to be honest. Apart from Laura Knusberg, I don't think she really deserved any criticism. She then writes another bigoted paragraph about how people defend serial rapists and voted, quote unquote, an alleged offender as president. He's alleged. He's, as far as I'm aware, he's not. It's not actually been proven that he sexually harassed anyone. But just keep lying. Why not? We then come to what I think is the first paragraph that has more truths than lies. It basically goes on that Peterson says the reason women aren't having as higher paid jobs as men is because more women are compassionate and caring than there are compassionate and caring men. So they end up in lower paying jobs as nurses and physicians, whereas men end up in high paying jobs as engineers and CEOs. If we men and women were to sort ourselves out equally, there would be dangerous imbalance, he believed. I don't think that's quite what he was saying. I think he was saying if we end up in an outcome where men and women have 50-50 pay, let's say, he's saying that it'd end up just making everyone unhappy because there's no way you can do that with free choice, and he used Scandinavia as the explanation. Which, by the way, if you want a good documentary about that, it's called, I think it's called The Norwegian Gender Paradox. You'll find it on YouTube. It's only half an hour long, but it's really good. And then she ends up just, it's weird. It's a really weird sentence to end it on. When Newman asked why he had the right to air his controversial views, he replied, "I'm a clinical psychologist with the cool calm of a cartoon villain."
But what gives you the right to say that? I mean, maybe that's how women want their relationships, those women. I mean, you're making these vast generalizations.
I'm a clinical psychologist.
Right, so you're saying you've done your research and women are unhappy dominating men.
Yes, as you can see, he's like a Bond villain. Jesus Christ, what a stupid statement. She then goes through saying, basically, the media's got about the wrong way covering MeToo. Tabloids pointing to the sleazy rather than the systematic. Well, whose fault's that? Is that the babes for going out trying to find Aziz Ansari's story from the woman that had that awkward sexual encounter with him? I don't know. But the routine pitting of feminists against anti-feminists as if required to balance out the interview. Well, what's the point in having all of one side or all of the other? Like, that's not going to make interesting debate, is it? And, you're going to gift airtime to Milo Yiannopoulos. Oh, no. Like, of course it's going to get you clicks, as you say. He's a good guy to have on, really. He doesn't pull any punches. Oh, jeez, this is such a stupid article. The author of the article then manages to write another 2 paragraphs about MeToo that I just don't think are relevant, so I'm not going to bother going through them. I don't know how she's incorporated MeToo into this. There was nothing about it in the interview, but gotta create the victim narrative for woman. She starts off the next relevant paragraph quite well, saying there is no doubt that Peterson was intelligent, determined and quick. No doubt indeed that Channel 4 News interview was entertaining. I can agree with that. But apparently his words on closer inspection were vacious and confusing, and he left gaps. Well, how can you say he was intelligent and then say his words were vacious? That doesn't make any sense to me. You're basically saying he was intelligent, but then he made points that weren't intelligent. It's like, well, you can't tell if someone's intelligent if their points they're making are vacious and confusing. Anyway, he failed to mention social conditioning. He wasn't asked about social conditioning. That's probably why I didn't mention it. He failed to mention that any profession dominated by women, except for the very senior levels, go hand in hand with being underpaid and undervalued. No, he didn't. He went through that. He said they're too agreeable. They won't ask for a raise. And then when asked, why don't they ask for a raise? He's like, well, I tell them to. But keep lying. Just keep lying. It makes you look worse and worse. He overexploited one aspect of the pay gap. That's because he was only asked about that one aspect, really. He could have gone into more, but that probably will have wasted time in the interview, I assume. Some women prioritise work-life balance over difficult careers. This is why they are paid less. Well, in terms of the gender pay gap, yes, that's true. If all you do is work your whole life, you're going to get paid more. That's why top CEOs spend 100 hours a week just working. They don't have a good life balance with that. And does it make them unhappy? I don't know. I don't know these people, but I know people that are at the top of firms don't exactly have good marriages, but just, yeah, keep saying that you deserve everything for nothing. His answer as to why items marketed down for women cost more than for men, he says men don't put up with it. Well, that's true. If I had a choice between a pink razor and a blue razor, and the pink razor was cheaper, I'd buy it. I don't care what the colour it is, but it seems to be that women do. Oh, jeez. He also failed to mention how centuries of patriarchy have brainwashed us, making us accept the status quo as logical and necessary, and one that benefits us all. He believes it too. No, he says patriarchy doesn't exist. His point about patriarchy always seems to be it's just life, and don't think it's just women that have to go through patriarchy. It's the feminist version of patriarchy. It's men as well. Like, I'm sat in a room just talking to a microphone. My job isn't that exciting. I have enough time to do this. I'm not paid a lot of money. Do you know what's in my way? Patriarchy. Oh god, this article. This article ends with the gotcha moment. Peterson said when Newman fell silent for a few seconds. Peterson laughed. Of course he did. He absolutely nailed her. It was essentially murder by words. The joke was on her in a way. Yes, she looked like a moron. Of course the joke's going to be on her. No matter what she would have asked, a woman daring to question his expertise was bound to have ramifications. It's the same with men. Like, if it was a man asking these exact same questions, the exact same outcome will have happened. In fact, no, actually it won't have, because I reckon that radical feminists would have said, oh my god, it's a man doing it, a woman would have done a better job. Like, I can guarantee that's what would have happened, but we'll never know now. But no, you're completely wrong about that. Stop making women out to be like victims. You're not victims in this case. Please stop lying to make yourself look like a victim. It is emasculating to you. I can't think of a better word than that, so sorry for the irony. Sorry to put you through that, but think about it, it's worse for me. I had to read the just completely stupid parts about MeToo being roped into this, but well, the worst part of it's over. We're now moving on to The Guardian, in which Channel 4 calls insecurity experts after presenter suffers online abuse. Are we actually going to have examples of abuse this time? I don't know. Let's find out. So firstly, Channel 4 News has called in security specialists to analyse threats made to presenter Cathy Newman following her interview with a controversial Canadian psychologist who has attracted a following among the alt-right. I don't actually know if that's true. I don't think the alt-right were a massive fan of him, but well, I can't be bothered looking into it basically because it's too funny. This threats made to presenter Cathy Newman links you to the exact same article, so that's just The Guardian being The Guardian. Again, it goes into Ben DePere's statement about vicious misogynistic abuse, etc., etc. You know, no actual examples or evidence of this, but, you know, listen and believe, as I said. It's a woman after all. Newman interviewed the psychologist John Peterson about gender on Tuesday. A video of the full 30-minute interview has been watched more than 1.6 million times. That's well over 2 million now, actually, on the Channel 4 News YouTube page, and it has attracted more than 36,000 comments. Why don't you go on about the like to dislike ratio, Guardian? I'd be interested to know what that is. Oh, Jesus Christ. Peterson rose to prominence in 2016 when he released a video lecture series in which he said that his right to free speech meant that he would not use gender-neutral pronouns for transgender students at the University of Toronto. He was in the UK promoting a new book called 12 Rules of Life, An Antidote to Chaos. Yes, that's true. He said he wouldn't use gender-neutral pronouns, but I think it's important to say why he wouldn't. He said he wouldn't because he doesn't believe it's helpful to them. But, I mean, what does he know? He's only a
clinical psychologist.
The article then mentions that right-leaning sites such as Breitbart and Douglas Murray have said that Peterson was essentially victorious. And Douglas Murray even went so far as to say he's never witnessed an interview where it was catastrophic for the interviewer, but I don't believe he's going to be wrong on that, because it was awful for Cathy Newman. Jesus Christ. Newman has faced a wave of abuse and threats online, including on Twitter. There is no suggestion that Peterson, Delingpole and Murray are behind these threats or instigated them. Well, of course they're not. They're civilised bloody people. And what are these? Like, I'm sure she's got abuse. I don't doubt she's got threats, but I would just like to see some examples, because it just lets people be sceptical if you don't. Like, just one example of, like, saying I'm gonna kill her or something. I don't know. Oh, don't take that out of context. Next, we've got more quotes from DePere saying, "Oh, we've had threats. It's not the type of thing we want to hear after an engaging debate with Jordan Peterson," which I agree with him with. I just haven't seen any evidence. But I'm sure it's happened, don't get me wrong. But after these, Newman retweeted DePere's post in response to Mulley's column, in which he said Newman should get Channel 4 to remove the video from the internet because of how catastrophic it was. I don't agree with you there, Douglas, but I do still like you. She said earlier in the week on Twitter that they don't mention, "Always grateful for advice from Douglas Murray, but I won't be suing or taking out a super injunction. I thoroughly enjoyed my bout with Jordan Peterson, as did hundreds of thousands of our viewers." I think you can say millions now. "Viva feminism, viva free speech, stay tuned, Douglas." That's an odd statement. I can't assume she's learned anything from the Viva feminism thing, but I can assume she's learned something from the Viva free speech thing, so I don't know. I'm alright with Cathy Newman, but that's just... I think she needs to look into her own principles a bit more personally. Next it says, Channel 4 News said, following her interview with psychology professor Jordan Peterson, broadcast earlier this week, our presenter Cathy Newman has been in the target of unwarranted and unacceptable misogynistic abuse and threats. Right, fine, I'm sure... Where, though? Just show me where. Like, even in the comments. I'd be happy in the comments just for one thing. I don't know. As journalists in the public eye, our presenters expect criticism, but we will not tolerate this level of abuse towards our staff. I don't know what level it's at, so I can't say whether I agree with that or not. Well, any level is bad, but I don't even know if it's on any level. We have taken immediate steps to ensure Cathy's safety and security and continue to offer her our full support on this matter. Well, that's grand. That's just grand. I think it's worth mentioning at this point that there has been a deleted tweet from a Channel 4 producer basically saying that her and Cathy Newman were entertaining themselves with the angry tweets they were getting. So, while they wait for the police to get there, so they don't seem threatened, it really makes you think that maybe they're not being threatened, maybe they are just trying to craft a victim narrative. But this is all just presumptions for now. I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest, but if they are faking threats, I'm going to be pretty disgusted. I think it's also worth mentioning that Jordan Peterson has sent out a tweet telling people to start being civil and don't threaten or abuse people on Twitter. Well, Cathy Newman in this case. And I think that's important because I'm going to show part of a long Twitter thread from Scrump, who I think really nails some of the steps that is going to happen, and I'm willing to say definitely is going to happen with this whole Jordan Peterson debacle. So this is one of Scrump's tweets saying he's going to spell out exactly what's going to happen. Channel 4 and Cathy Newman know they got obliterated in that debate, that much is obvious. And they aren't happy with their narrative being destroyed because you've got to keep the feminist lie alive. There's going to be a media campaign to prevent this happening again. And so he says that it's a 4-step process. So step 1, basically make Jordan Peterson to be what he isn't, as transphobic and alt-right. Well, we've seen in The Guardian and The Independent, actually, that's exactly what they're trying to do. Number 2, he'll be asked to disavow his fan base because they're all online abusers of women, etc., etc. He's obviously not going to do that, and when he doesn't do that, he's going to get hit with more hit pieces. Third step is having Jordan Peterson on a TV show will be reframed as dangerous to women and will endorse harassment. So he will probably be banned from UK events and interviews, and it'll all be cancelled due to safety, because people feel unsafe around Jordan Peterson. Jesus Christ. Step 4, Peterson's mere presence on social media and YouTube will be called into question. I can see that happening. He's spreading a quote-unquote hateful rhetoric that encourages harassment, even though he's clearly said he doesn't want people to do that. And so I think it's worth going through that thread, because Scrump does kind of nail it down step by step what's going to happen, and we know it's going to happen because it's happened to people before, like Milo Yiannopoulos and Ben Shapiro. Just Jesus Christ, I can't believe it's Jordan Peterson out of everyone. He's like the nicest man imaginable. I honestly can't wait to get his book. But I don't think it'd be fair to say just to outright paint these publications as just Jordan Peterson haters, because I don't think it's true, and I think that's pointed out by this article from the Observer, actually, which is part of the Guardian, and it's Jordan Peterson, The Pursuit of Happiness as a Pointless Goal, and it's actually a really good article for Guardian standards anyway. It's essentially just a little interview from the author of this article, and I think it's quite good from the start, because he says his first question to him, in which he wants to try and knock Jordan Peterson off balance, is, "Who the hell do you think you are, Moses?" And Jordan Peterson's reply is just a bit of a laugh and saying, "No, I think I am someone who is properly terrified." And then he goes on about how certain things of thinking you're a victim when you're not actually one can lead you to very dark places. You know, his usual stuff. It's quite a good article, and I think you should read it. It's quite long, so I don't really want to go through it in this video because I think it would take forever. But yeah, he essentially says all his usual stuff, and there's not too much opinionated, emotional refutation from the author. It just seems to be that he wants to say what Jordan Peterson's saying, and I think it's really good. And at the end, he does write out what Peterson's 12 rules for life are, which I think would be quite a nice backdrop to if you want to read the book. So if you just go through the rules at the end of this article, I think it'd be worth your time. I think it's worth your time going through the whole thing, to be honest. So I think it's just from certain sections of the media, not entirely all of it, but hey, I'm willing to be proved wrong on that, don't get me wrong. So that's all I had on this subject for now. I hope Jordan Peterson can come back to the UK with more interviews at his disposal, and, well, if he ever does something up in the north of England, I'll be the first one to get one of his tickets, so I can assure him of that. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and goodbye.